Welcome back to Atlanta Forward. Those backing the special sales tax for transportation want to see mass transit overhauled.
And some have even suggested that we get rid of MARTA, or at least change the name for marketing purposes for perception. And I asked MARTA's CEO what she thinks about that, and her answer just may surprise you. Is this a turning point for our region? I mean, is it that big?
Oh, it's that big. It's that big.
Dr. Beverly Scott is MARTA's CEO. She says it's time to put ego aside.
If it politically made more sense to call it Fred or anything else and have new colors, would you do it?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll be very honest with you. I think we must.
From Scott to the mayor to business leaders far and wide, the argument is voters need to pass the special 1-cent tax next year that would provide billions of dollars for transportation.
I root for the region. So, I mean, I'm a different kind of leader in terms of believing it's wonderful wherever people live.
Right now, Metro County leaders, including those far outside of I-285, are whittling down a list of projects that will eventually be on a ballot. To get voter approval, a huge marketing campaign will be waged, and part of that campaign may very well do away with the name MARTA. Its governing body would look different and handle a much larger system. A new regional transit system would provide service to the multiple counties surrounding Atlanta with the goal of getting more people out of their cars.
If the projects will impact their lives and reduce traffic congestion and improve mobility, I think it will pass.
Kelly McCutcheon is the president of the Georgia Public Policy Foundation.
If we just choose to put feel-good projects and large boondoggles on the ballot, I don't think it has much of a chance.
He and other influentials know the agreed-upon projects must have widespread appeal to include road and rail. The real challenge is getting Metro Atlantans, whether home is Decatur or Douglasville, to feel like a yes to transportation is a win for everyone.
I think rather than saying MARTA expanding, what we really need to be talking about is a truly regional transit system, whatever we might call it. I think the #1 destination that a lot of people have is Hartsfield. How can I get from Duluth or Kennesaw to Hartsfield?
And just rooting for all of the communities that are a part of the region, because that's the future for us.
Make no mistake, there will be a lot of negotiations as leaders try to agree on what projects should make it to the ballot. So much money and economic development are on the line locally. Those who know big cities and moving people say Atlanta better get it right and invest in its future.
I say with all seriousness that this isn't making it up. We truly need to make this one be a real home run for us.
And what hangs in the balance? Our economic viability?
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Frazier, let me direct this question to you. Knowing what you know now, and you've been in Atlanta for a long time, what do you think are the chances that we will end up with some sort of regional transit system replacing MARTA? And then, if that happens, would it be time for the state of Georgia to get involved with funding?
Well, I have been here a long time, and I remember when we did this with MARTA the first time. It is essential. The mayor's right, Sam's right, all of them are right. It is essential to have an integrated transportation system for the region. Unfortunately, we have a political climate that is not comfortable with looking long-term. They're only comfortable about looking at short-term solutions or not solutions. If this doesn't happen, we will get bypassed by others. As we speak, and I learned this in spades last fall, South Carolina and Alabama have groups targeting our industry in Georgia, willing to make huge concessions to get them there. And we know from economic development studies all over the place, including the own work we did, that one of the main things that companies who are looking to move look for is infrastructure. The airport's a great one. I mean, that's our big draw. But infrastructure also means, can I get to work? If something isn't done here, we'll fail.
Ted, what do you think about the state's involvement?
I'm hopeful that the state would participate in supporting a regional transit system. But what's going to be very, very important as a step prior to that is that we need to establish a mechanism for regional transit governance. Right now, you can call it replacing MARTA, but you're not going to replace MARTA. You need to build on MARTA. And the way to build on MARTA is to establish an entity, a governance structure that truly embraces the development of a regional transit system for the long term.
That is a problem that a lot of our people have with this scenario. Creates another level of government. People also have the understanding that 85% of the funds generated will go toward regional projects and only 15% will go back to the counties for local governance of the funds. And they have a problem with that because they see it as a perfect example of government redistribution of funds. So I would ask you how you would answer that.
I think that that's the way that we have traditionally as community, as a state and as a nation, taken on projects that we as individuals or smaller communities can't afford. So infrastructure is something that is going to provide for all of us, help create jobs for all of us, help get you home to your families for all of us. So it's something that we all have to take on. We put the 15% reservation just to make sure you could spend on your home projects. So everybody is going to benefit because they're going to have a 15% local drawdown. But the investments we're making, certainly in rail and in road improvements, no one county or city could handle alone. So I think it's consistent with our values.
I would be curious to hear Mr. Bowers' perspective on this. You have the opportunity to represent the business community here, sir, with Georgia Power, of course. How critical is this for you guys? I mean, if we don't get this, what happens?
Well, Dan, you go back to the point that Mr. Frazier made about the long-term planning process of this. You know, our business is a long-term business. You know, we make plans 30 years out to try to determine what the growth is for this state and ensure that there's an energy supply for those individuals that are not yet here. That's the same process you have to go through from transportation, is to ensure that you're planning for the future, that there is going to be growth. And hopefully we'll continue to grow this region, this state, and transportation is going to be a critical part of that.
Safe to say you then support the SPLOST?
Absolutely.
And we'll continue to tackle this, as this obviously has been a fruitful discussion. Quick break and we'll have more with Atlanta Forward.
Atlanta Public Schools under national scrutiny. How the cheating investigation could impact economic growth for years. And later, the Tri-State Water War. Georgia's recent victory in court does not end the battle. A closer look at possible solutions as Atlanta Forward continues.
State investigators have found widespread cheating in Atlanta public schools.
We found cheating in 44 of the 56 schools we examined. 178 teachers and principals in the Atlanta public school system cheated.
And the results of the Atlanta cheating investigation have made national headlines, and just how the school system reacts may impact the city for years.
Now, most agree Atlanta cannot move forward until it finds a way to ensure this never happens again. The conclusions in the 800-page report are disturbing. Investigators found cheating in 44 of 56 schools. 178 educators erased answers or did something else to boost CRCT scores, and 82 confessed.
This angers us all. These people are not going to be put in front of children again.
Changes began almost immediately. Students at 2 of the 3 year-round schools returned this month with new principals in charge. The special investigators say they uncovered organized and systemic misconduct dating all the way back to 2001. Their report says former Superintendent Dr. Beverly Hall and her staff knew or should have known. We tracked down Dr. Hall on vacation in Hawaii and asked for an explanation.
I'm fine. I have been calling you trying to get an interview. Oh, I can't do that. No, why not? Because I want to get my voice back. But here I can't even call.
Hall's only response came in an Atlanta Journal-Constitution editorial. She apologized but said those educators who cheated are morally responsible. Teachers who confessed got immunity from prosecution. Their supervisors did not.
When educators have failed to uphold the public trust and students are harmed in the process, there will be consequences.
The consequences range from criminal charges to the loss of hundreds of thousands in education grants. Investigators say thousands of children in need were denied help due to inflated, misleading test scores.
Total disappointment that the city isn't in better control of the schools and that our teachers and principals don't have more integrity.
Parents are not the only ones worried. Community leaders say the cheating scandal's impact could hurt the city for years.
We've not lost any companies because of it. We've had companies that were interested in moving here that say, explain this to us. We've read things about this in the national press. What's going on?
Mayor, let me start with you. Of course, the report came out, changes were made. It seemed to be swift action taken. But what do you think will be the impact, short-term and long-term, of the CRCT cheating?
Well, I think the impact is children's lives are going to be improved because we're going to create a better system. We begin immediately, I think, recruiting Chancellor Errol Davis, the former chancellor for the higher education system of the state. Paul and I work together in that process. You begin by cleaning it up. You begin by not denying responsibility. You begin by going through the pain in a very open way and having a series of very hard discussions and really sticking out your chin and taking it, but understanding because of what we're going through, children's lives are going to be improved because they are no longer being cheated. They're no longer being told that they can achieve, and we're going to make all of the investments that are necessary to make sure that we attract and retain a best-in-class superintendent, that we go out and get best-in-class teachers, and were it not for this investigation and all of the light that has been brought to this matter, we wouldn't be able to clean the wound, if you will, repair it, and then have real reform where because of this scandal, all of the progress on a going forward basis is going to be subject to enormous scrutiny. So the benefits will be real, they'll be valid, and our city will recover from this.
And Mayor, speaking of scrutiny, to Sam Williams, the Chamber took some criticism for what it did or didn't do in the last few years. So I ask, going forward, what do you see as the role of the Chamber in regard to education?
Well, I think the business community, like a lot of others, were really duped in this. We believed national rankings. We believed test scores. We had no way to independently assess those. I think going forward, I think you're going to see business is going to be very supportive of the new superintendent, as the mayor said. We're going to be very invested in our school systems with partnership programs and volunteer programs. But most of all, I think we need to set some standards of what we want as the output. We need to set some targets of what percentage of high schoolers do we want to graduate in 4 years and hold accountability there.
Whereas many of the issues that Atlanta is facing right now with transportation and water have regional solutions. I think in education, the solutions to the current situation in the Atlanta public schools is very local. It's as local as an individual teacher and an individual student. And so I see the solution to the current situation being much more about increasing funding, more teachers, and more very personal interaction between teachers and students, which is something I think we've lost, and that led us to the situation we find ourselves in now.
Our in-depth look at education's role in moving Atlanta forward goes on the road next. We travel to another southern city to see solutions that may work here at home. You're watching Atlanta Forward, a Channel 2 Action News primetime special.
Bill and Melinda Gates are helping the Memphis School District change its course with a massive $90 million grant.
I recently traveled to Tennessee to see what we can learn, if anything, from the Memphis School District to help move Atlanta forward. When you think of Memphis, Tennessee, you think of the blues, the music of the Mississippi Delta that fills the air. In a city known for its down-home feel, and one event that forever changed history, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Critics say Memphis stood still that day. But now its public schools are taking a major leap into the future.
We were a neglected school system. We were a hemorrhaging school system. We were a failing school system.
Memphis City Schools recently got a $90 million grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with hopes of turning around the system.
The goal is to have an effective teacher in every classroom, in every course, every day, every year.
The grant is helping the district change aggressively and strategically.
But it's significant because we don't normally have large dollars like that to be able to just focus in on teaching.
Dr. Kreiner Cash came to Memphis 3 years ago. He says teacher turnover was high, recruitment and retainment suffered, salaries didn't match skills. Teachers are now watched and critiqued and then reclassified as masters, professionals, or novices. It's the new model for teacher effectiveness. When Cash arrived, half of all third graders were failing. College readiness was just at 4%. The graduation rate hovered around 60%.
That's human capital to being failed, period. We weren't faulting anybody, it's not that, but what are you doing about it?
Principal Alicia Kreiner is doing something.
We tell them, you are your brother's keeper. you are responsible for the person sitting right next to you.
The graduation rate at Memphis's historic Booker T. Washington was at 55% in 2008. Last year, nearly 82% of seniors got diplomas. Kiner says the Teacher Effectiveness Initiative is paying off.
But nothing works without really good teachers. If you don't have people who really care about kids and about their success and about how they represent you when you leave the building, then you can't make anything work.
Memphis now offers prep academies, which target students at risk of dropping out, and early college schools, allowing others to finish high school and start college at the same time. And parents have taken notice.
Seeing her grow here, it has made me appreciate that there are some people out there who care about education for those who wouldn't otherwise be educated.
Superintendent Cash says Memphis needed education reform. The Gates gift was the investment needed to make it happen.
I don't think we would have gotten this far this fast. I'm sure of it.
Dr. Rossbacher, I want to go back to you. You were talking about how those changes need to be made locally. We know how important those philanthropic dollars are. Can we do it without that money? How do you make those changes?
Think about some entrepreneurial ways to generate resources, looking at public-private partnerships, looking at ways to be creative about how we find funding for education in the state. I mean, we'd love to have it all funded by the state, but that's not realistic. So we need to be creative about looking at that.
When you think about the workforce for the future and investing in that today, it's critical for us. As we evolve as businesses, there's certain skill sets that we're looking for, and we're making sure that we're injecting an idea of what could be possible for those children, but also there's jobs in the future if we are able to meet certain criteria in terms of their education.
Do you have a line in your budget for it?
I do. For Georgia Power specifically, we just initiated an energy education initiative statewide where we're putting 12 teachers back in the classroom around the state to really start at the 3rd grade, the 8th grade, and at high school to educate them about math and sciences and where that might lead them in terms of energy opportunities for the future.
Is Georgia's decades-old water war going to stop Atlanta from moving forward? We examine the ongoing legal battle and possible solutions next.